Appreciate your sound, need to bring innovation. Sound needed for innovation.
Music brings us together, even when we're apart. That's why we support Canadian musicians, festivals, and award shows. It's just one of the ways TD's Ready commitment helps build a more inclusive tomorrow.
E Atiga Mackenzie, Labrador Miungavunga. Hi, my name is Mackenzie. Before we begin, I would like to acknowledge that this event and the Halifax Pride Festival take place in Mi'kmaq, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people. This territory is covered under the treaties of peace and friendship with the Wabanaki peoples. We recognize that reconciliation requires action in support of words. We commit to working with and supporting Indigenous communities, and it is very important we work towards identifying and uprooting all systems of oppression.
Good afternoon. My name is Morgan Manzer, and I would like to add that Halifax Pride is committed to providing space that is accessible, inclusive, and free from oppression, harassment, and discrimination. In this space, in all the spaces we create, we will treat each other with respect and dignity, regardless of our age, race, gender expression, gender identity, sexual orientation, levels of ability, and all of our other diverse identities. Halifax Pride also stands in solidarity with the Black Lives Matter movement to end police brutality and violence against Black communities across North America. African Nova Scotians and Black people have the right to live free from oppression, violence, and systemic marginalization. We also know that there needs to be action behind these words. So please visit our website for some of the actions that we are currently taking on to work behind this statement. And so I'm very excited to introduce the panelists that will be with us this afternoon. So I'm going to start with Geordie Marshal, and their pronouns are they, he, or she, any of the above. So Geordie is a 29-year-old from the Eskasoni First Nation and is from the Bear Clan. Geordie is Two-Spirit and one of the founders of Pride Eskasoni. He serves his community as the executive director of Jemdidemsi, a grassroots Mi'kmaq pride organization. Geordie is a Two-Spirit artist where he expresses his art through the drag as Regina Fierce that we saw on full display last weekend, and it was wonderful, and as singer and songwriter. Welcome, Geordie.
Hi, Morgan. Thank you for having me.
And then I would like to introduce my friend, Joy Powley, and Joy uses the pronouns they and them. And Joy is one of the co-chairs of Pictou County Rainbow Community. They have been involved in Pride for 3 years. Initially, they became involved to create a more inclusive community in the Pictou County region and continues to serve on many community boards advocating for a diverse community development. Welcome, Joy.
Thank you.
And then this is wonderful that Sarah Mccorriston could join us. And Sarah is from Lunenburg Pride, who has had a very, very busy week and will be speaking about that later today. Would you like to give us more background, Sarah?
I am vice chair of Lunenburg Pride County, and yeah, we've been doing a lot of work lately to get the flag risen in Chester, and we've become successful.
Great. So I guess we'll use that segue to get us started. As we all know, while there have been a fair number of advancements for 2S LGBTQ plus peoples, there continues to be opposition and resistance. And that was really on full display this past week as the municipality of Chester initially refused to raise the pride flag, and they used the what I will call an excuse as a 2007 policy that said they were not permitted to do so. And this was despite Lunenburg Pride raising and working on this issue for a year to put this request forward. So I guess that really brings up for me is, as Pride organizers, how do we get decision makers to change policy, to really further the Pride movement? And I guess it makes sense to start with Sarah. So if Sarah perhaps could give us maybe some of the background of what happened in Lunenburg and maybe some of the lessons that she has learned from that experience.
Awesome. So it's been over a year that we've asked for the flag to be run, or to be raised. We've been asking for at least the last 2 years since Shelley and I have been on board, and I'm sure that it was requested before us as well in 2016 or 17. So they pretty much just kind of use the excuse, as you said, as well, we weren't asked, so we're not going to fly it. But the truth is they were asked, but nobody took the time to put in consideration what flying the pride flag meant to us and to everybody in the LGBT community. And it became very clear when all of the neighboring communities were having flag raisings, and the community that the chair and vice chair of Lunenburg Co are from, the community, the municipality that our children go to school at, was refusing to fly a flag. And due to old policies, that it just really seemed like they couldn't be bothered to change or take the time to learn why change is needed.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
No, and are there any particular lessons that you learned in terms of advocating to decision makers about how to change policy or to take actions that benefit our community?
Call them out. Honestly, my wife, Shelley, the chair, she did a CBC interview and did just that, and it blew up. Like, it just went, it went all over the world. Ellen Page tweeted about it. Then we had, they had so many people, council had so many emails and calls. They couldn't say no. There was no way they couldn't change their mind, because they would have been destroyed. They would have been destroyed.
Well, that's wonderful. Oh, no, so cute. Thank you for your work. And I think that's really important, and it is hard work, and I'm glad they've finally made the right decision. Thanks to you and your wife's tireless work and the many folks there who participated in making that change. So I guess I'll go off to Joy on that note. Joy, do you have any experiences or what we can do in order to get decision makers to support Pride organizations and the Pride movement?
It can be a big challenge because a lot of people in our demographic aren't necessarily involved on the municipal levels of government. We're underrepresented. There we go. If you can get a group that will go to your council meetings constantly and just continuously ask for the same thing, or ask to sit down and talk with your decision makers in your municipality or your town, and try to build that relationship, that can go a long way too. We just had a little bit of resistance. The Black Lives Matter community here in Glasgow wanted to do a crosswalk or an installation, and the town was kind of resistant to that. And I talked with the organizer there, because he had asked, well, how did the Pride crosswalk get done, and how did this get done, and how did that get done? So we kind of shared some resources, and they were able to put enough pressure on, a lot of emails, a lot of phone calls, for them to realize this was important and they needed to do it.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Joy. And we'll go to Geordie. What are your experiences on getting decision makers to change policy or to support the Pride movement generally?
In my experience, what's most important is building relations, and not only building relations with those who are of power, but building relations to those who you're serving. As Pride organizers, we're leaders in our communities, but we're also servants to our communities. We're there to serve their needs and to be their number one fighter in the front lines, to say, you know what, this is what's going on with you. This is what's going on in this community. Let's talk about it. We're here to support you. Let's listen to your story. And this is the groundwork that we're bringing when we lobby these issues to people in higher positions, to people in leadership, and how we build relations on both ends, that we're just the middleman, just the middle person. And in that process, we're able to really build good relationships and build really good good medicine into the work that we do. And if there's resistance, then on the end of the power, then we're not afraid to really speak up about it. And we have the support of the people that we're serving to back us up into whatever we're fighting for. So we're really work towards having that type of relationship. And it's no matter what happens, there's no animosity, there's nothing like that. It's just there's discomfort, and there's people that are underrepresented that are need to be heard. Their voices need to be heard, that we're there to represent them, and we're there to make things done for them. That's what it's all about.
That's fantastic, Geordie. And I really want to drill down on that a little bit more. I think you're so right in saying that ultimately Pride organizations are there to serve the needs and create space for the queer community in their region. So how do you actually engage members of your specific queer community to ensure that the activities that you're doing, or any of the activism or advocacy that you're doing, is authentic to the community and meets the specific needs of that particular community? And I guess we'll start back with Sarah on that one. She works there.
Sorry, still learning. Okay, sorry. Can you just give me a quick rundown of that again? I was making sure that everyone was over there.
Oh, very cute. No, the question was really with respect to how do you engage with your queer community to ensure that the activities or advocacy that you are doing meets their specific needs?
Awesome. So we've really been involved in the schools around here. We really just lucked out with having a board full of mothers and education people in the education system, and we've really been able to get into the schools and get the support of those families first. And then I find that having the kids spread the word, going home and telling their parents about, somebody from Lunenburg Pride came in and read us this book about like being me and loving who I am no matter what. I find that that's really helped us get around to the families. And then again, we're really big on trying to express how important having allies are, and teach our community what an ally is, because I don't think that it's taught enough, because people think, it's been under the assumption that, why would we fly this flag when we're not flying this flag or this flag, or like, why wouldn't we fly the straight white flag or whatnot? It's about teaching a generation of people that we don't need to explain that to, that it's just, the flag is there right now. There's so many misconceptions, but a lot of the around it here in Chester, it's really hard to change minds. And even though, yes, they were called out and we became successful, they were also awesome at saying, you know what, we were wrong by the things that we had said. And they corrected themselves and asked for help. And all we can do is offer different organizations, municipalities, schools, help in understanding who we are and why we're here.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And Joy.
Well, on mute. So to try to keep our...
Oh, Joy, you remuted there. There you go. There, you're good.
Cat, leave me alone. Anyway, yeah, to ensure that our events and stuff are authentic, we try to reach out to as much of our group as we possibly can. So we try to have events that are tailored to the youth, that are tailored to the elder community. And it's difficult. We've recognized the lack of diversity on our board, and we're trying to, we're doing some, well, we planned before COVID to do some town hall type consultation with the Black community, the Indigenous community, and the Multicultural Association that's here, to try to get their ideas, let them know they're supported, and that if they have an idea, we can help make that happen.
That's wonderful. Great. I think outreach is such an important aspect of all of the work that we do, and continuing these conversations and doing that work up front is so important. And Geordie, what has your experience been in really drilling down on how do we engage our community to ensure that we are planning events and activities that meet their specific needs?
I think it comes back to, again, to building relations, and the type of relations that we build within our communities and the people that we're servicing. It's not surface. It's not. I'm not coming to you as someone who is very superficial, like, oh, how can I serve you? When it's more so, hey, I'm here. I'm a friend. I care about you. We're a part of the same community. I love you. You're my family. You're my friend. And tell me what's your pain. Tell me what kind of issues that you're dealing with. Tell me what your friends are dealing with. Tell me what things that we can do together to make things happen. And I think coming from that level of, personal connections with people, that we kind of, that's where we get the source of true activism and true advocacy for our community.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Geordie. And I guess I'm going to hit on something that Joy said. It's always the elephant in the room, is that there is an ongoing COVID-19 pandemic. And I think that's really reminded us all, particularly here, that Pride is more than a parade. Not all communities are ready or large enough to host a parade. And Pride events will look vastly different from community to community. So can you kind of everyone give a brief overview of what Pride looks like in your specific community? And we will start with, let's go in reverse order. Geordie.
So how Pride will look like in my community because of COVID?
No, just right. Because of COVID this particular year, or what is just the current state of Pride in Eskasoni generally?
So we like to follow, we do a 4-day festival, which follows the medicine wheel or the 4 directions teachings. So it's just encompassing all things, part of who we are and how we see things. And so on the last day, that's when we do a Pride March, which is usually on a Sunday. I know we've gotten requests before to do parades, and I think it's partially a parade, but it's mostly a march, because we're still here to represent like the inequity and inequality within our communities and the underrepresentation of queer folk or 2S LGBTQ plus folk, that were, it's great to celebrate, but it's also great to just walk down that street and be like, here we are, we're gonna march on the street every year and it ain't gonna change. Mm-hmm. But every year we just bring in new things. We've developed a drag community in our community, and we've developed some relationships with the drag community on the island, where we invite them to come join us, and it's just focusing on traditional knowledge and traditional, like, we did beat-in, and we did just whatever we can do, whatever we can think of. And in terms of COVID, we've had our board meeting and we said, okay, we have to prepare for the worst and we have to prepare for the best case scenario. where we're able to meet in maybe a decent group, or maybe we can't meet at all because our event is in September, so we don't know when, if there's going to be a second wave coming. So I think we're really looking at Halifax Pride as a role model on how to run things, and I think we know how we're going to do things. So I think we'll be okay in the best way we can. So even if we have to do like a slow drive-in Pride march, we'll do whatever it takes.
Well, that's wonderful, Geordie. Thank you for the nice compliment. And we're always here to lend a hand or any support that you folks may need. And Joy, what about you?
So there are so many parades in Pictou County. Like, they are celebrating something every other week. Not so much this year. But usually what we're trying to do is get involved, especially in that big Canada Day parade that kind of kicks off our summer. So if we can have ourselves present there, that lets the community know that we're here, and we can put out some information about what is going on. Again, this year things are kind of different. We've kind of deferred things to the fall as well, so we don't know how that's going to look. But we'll do, in the past, we've relied on our library a lot for space. So we've done some things with artists, to have artists and authors that are in the community to come and showcase their work. We did QueerCon at Glasgow Square. This was my little brainchild of having like a Comic-Con, but the queer version. So we invited creators, so people who do little artwork or sewing projects or whatnot, to come and sell their things. And then we had Venus Envy come up and do a workshop at that event. And we had some tabletop gaming. So there was some D&D going on, and there was some just regular board games going on. The community really, really liked that. And we've done dances, and we have one space in the community that's very, very, it's owned by a gay man, and he hosts dances through the year. And he usually hosts a Pride dance during Pride as well. And we've started reaching out to some other establishments to try to find what we can do, not only during Pride, but through the year.
That's wonderful. Thank you for all your work, Joy. And Sarah, what is the state of Pride in your region, and what are the typical events that you folks would put on for your queer community?
So like I said, we're mostly in the schools. Last year, we've had 2 dances so far. So normally we would have had a dance. We had a dance planned. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it due to COVID. So while the world kind of went on pause, we weren't too sure what to do. Our board kept in great communication. And I know that it was definitely on our mind of how we could still let our community know that we're here. Like, we're not all just isolating from you, that we're still here when you need the support. When restrictions lifted, because we weren't able to do much of a Pride anywhere, and we weren't even sure if we were going to be able to do any flag raisings at the time, we opened up our personal farm and had a Pride party here and had people book individually. And we had a lot of LGBTQ families and just couples come up and celebrate, have a cupcake, see the animals, and say Happy Pride.
Oh, that's wonderful. That's very cute. I'd love to come to the farm. It's great. On this note, there are folks across the province and outside of Nova Scotia who are watching today. So Laura is saying hi from the Annapolis Valley. Amy is saying hi from Bear River. And Dylan is saying hello from Edmonton. So it's great to see folks from different queer communities across the province and across Canada who are joining in on the conversation today. So I want to go to a real positive note to what has been your personal greatest moment of joy or satisfaction as being a Pride organizer in Nova Scotia? And for that, because I see a big smile, was Joy. So I'll go to Joy.
When we held one of our dances, we had a young lady who is part of the community, but also has autism. And the appreciation that she had for having a space where she could just be herself was really great. And it's so many of those little moments throughout the work that we do that we know that we're touching lives and letting people be who they are.
Thank you, Joy. And I agree with you that sometimes it is those very small moments that can be so touching and make you recognize that it is important work and it is making a tremendous difference for folks within our community. And what about Sarah?
Mine would definitely have to be the flag raising yesterday in Chester. My family rose the flag. It's going to be something in history. My son was there. My wife raised it, and I can't express how proud I was. There were many, many, many tears shed.
And I think that is so important, how much it's more than just touches your family. Obviously, it's a very special moment for you and your family, but for all of those as a symbol and a beacon.
We had so many people show up. This was organized in less than 24 hours when they changed their mind. And even in the pouring rain, we still had a crowd of people show up. It meant a lot to the residents of Chester. And I know that it meant a lot to us and my children. So yeah, personal and municipality. It was awesome.
Congratulations. And Geordie, what has been the moment of greatest joy or satisfaction in organizing?
So I think back from the very first moment when we started our Pride event, and we started in 2016, and we're marching on that road, and it was just, a one-day event, but it was a start. But what that represented was a beginning of a bunch of people in our community feeling comfortable with who they are, and to show that they're not alone. And looking at the people who were in that parade, there were politicians, there were, community leaders, there were teachers, there were healthcare providers, there were social workers, there were parents, there were even parents of people who their children came out later on, like maybe a couple years later, and they were there, and they were there to support us all. And how that has developed over the years. One of our elders said, I'm really glad that there's a pride in Eskasoni, because maybe our people will stop killing themselves in our community. So that's a reality of what we face. It's not the most conversationally pleasing thing to talk about, but it's important. It's important because this is the truth of our reality. And to be able to be part of that beacon of hope for our people, to show them that, we're standing here, we're standing tall, we're standing proud in who we are, not only as queer people, not only as LGBTQ plus people, but as Mi'kmaq people. And that was that message. And that's what I'm most proud of. And what that journey has started and how much further we have to go still. And I'm just excited to be on this ride along that journey.
And I can say, Geordie, it's been a pleasure to watch, and kudos to you and all of the folks who are working very hard there. All of our Pride organizers across Nova Scotia. It's a pleasure to watch others succeed in their communities and to see these events grow. But we all know, as Pride organizers or community organizers, despite our best intentions and best efforts, sometimes there are mistakes. and sometimes there are unforeseen events that occur. So how do you deal with mistakes or errors and move forward united as a community? And I will go to Joy on that.
So an important part of that is having a good team, and a team that understands that sometimes things are beyond our control, and the compassion. We need to have compassion for ourselves and for each other, and then be able to kind of, once we've gone through that, okay, this didn't go as planned, then sit down and have a good conversation. It may not be a fun conversation, but a good conversation about, there must have been something that went okay. So what was that? And can we build on that? Yeah.
Great, thank you. And Sarah.
Communication obviously is key. I am a very firm believer of putting the shoe or putting your feet in somebody else's shoes before you make any call, like almost to a flaw. So our board is very, very understanding. We work very well together, and there hasn't been a whole lot that we haven't been able to resolve. Kill them with kindness, and because that's what we're out to do, right? So yeah.
Great. Thank you, Sarah. And Geordie, what do you do when something goes awry?
Well, when it comes to the board perspective, we typically run by consensus, and when it comes to dealing with people who are underrepresented, you don't want to create margins of even more people being underrepresented. We want to encompass everyone. So when we're discussing issues, although on paper you're required the quorum, you're required whatever formalities to have, but for us, yes, that's important, but when you have consensus, you would assume that you're still following those standards, right? So I think on a moralistic level, then that's what we're focused on, is that, okay, if there's one person who has grievance in whatever decision that we make, then that is worthy of continuing to talk about. How can we resolve this? How can we work together to ensure that everyone is represented? And then we don't pass that motion until it carries through everyone. Everyone is represented, everyone benefits. So in terms of working with the community, I think what's the best thing to do is always just to be an example of kindness and of love and generosity. And, sometimes we can be subject to messing things up sometimes and not being exactly 100% the best ally. But through that process, we, like what Joy said, that there's compassion of yourself, and there's compassion towards other people, where we can really make room to say, oh, you know what, maybe there's we acknowledge what our differences are, and then we can come back together and move forward without any grievances. And I see that. I see compassion a lot within children. I used to work at the elementary school as a teacher's aide. And, I was most predominantly in the learning centers and in primary classes. And oh my goodness, the primary students are something else. They would, they enjoy life. They want to touch everything, like when it comes to toys and books, and like they want to color, they want to, they want to hug each other, and they're just full of life and joy. And maybe there was one child that took a toy from a child and they got into a disagreement, and they express their grievances, right? Like, what are you doing taking that? But they usually express it through crying. So what I noticed afterwards is, like, there's someone who intervenes and then resolves it, and then within about 30 minutes, not even, they're already playing together and they're happy again, like nothing happened. And from that mindset, I was like, oh my God, these kids are so smart. Like, I don't, like, just thinking about like that compassion and thinking about that easiness, that innocence, being able to forgive one another just by being able to, you know, put aside our differences, you know, there's no ego involved, and to just really resolve what the true essence of the issue is. And when we're able to do that as adults, when we're able to do that within our organizations and the people that we serve, or the people that, you know, are supposed to be serving us, then we can really have something going, and this can become something really great in terms of building connections and building relations amongst others, no matter which, whether if it's people you're serving or with people that's going to be serving you.
Thank you, Geordie. And I can certainly speak to that experience, in that I've had the honor and the privilege of doing this work in the community for the last 5 years. And I think what I've learned is sort of what Geordie has said, is to, in some ways, let go of the ego and admit when you're wrong, and acknowledge that you make mistakes. And I, in this work, have made plenty. But I commit to always doing the best that I can, but also to listening and to learning. And it's very challenging work at times. And, you know, you kind of got to dust yourself off and get back up and say, you know what, I'm going to continue to put in the work to learn, to understand different perspectives or different lived experiences than my own. And, you know, how can we come together, even if we may not fully understand one another or agree on something. So it's first, I think, acknowledging, look, I made a mistake, or I did something wrong or harmful, or you know, the organization or event did. Apologize for that, and look at, you know, how can we rectify this situation to ensure that we do better in the future. And it's really challenging, I think, to be able to do that. But I think it's really important in this work to know that, look, things will happen, but as long as we know that we're committing to making sure in the future things are different. So we did get another comment from Cynthia, and Cynthia says that I'm from a small town in Cape Breton, and I want to thank you all so much for your work at raising the Pride standard in the small communities. And I think it is really important. Obviously, I'm here on behalf of Halifax Pride, which is a large urban center, but it's so important for folks wherever they live across this province to know that there are folks like them who live in those communities, so that they feel a sense of community and supported. And the work of you folks and so many organizers across this province really make that possible. So thank you, Cynthia. I think that is a really important comment. And I want to thank certainly Joy and Sarah and Geordie and all of the wonderful Pride organizers across the country. So I think one thing that we all know is about diversity within our organizations. Obviously, we're talking about Black, Indigenous, and people of color, but as well, right, trans and non-binary folks, you know, asexual folks, pansexual folks, to make sure that there's a place for all identities within our organizations, to make sure that there is visibility for different identities in all of the spaces that we create, to ensure that whatever folks' identity or lived experience, that they feel safer in the ability to attend the events that we put on. So I guess, how do we ensure that we are doing a better job of reaching out to particularly underrepresented and marginalized communities or identities to make sure that they have a place at all Pride events across this province? And we'll start with Joy on that one.
So the communication piece is always a bit of a challenge. We've got some social media, but to be able to get out to, I can't speak to every person in the community, but we try to think about those things. We've reached out to as many groups as possible and just building those relationships. Because even if maybe someone doesn't want to come and sit on the board, if I've got a good relationship with someone in that community, I can at least bring that voice to the table. And that's what we're trying to do right now anyway. Trying to make things as inclusive as possible, especially with there's some gatekeeping in our community as a whole, and we want to kind of not do that so that even someone who isn't out can come and participate without having to feel like they need to out themselves or they need to disclose. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you. And Sarah.
This is something that is brought up at every board meeting that we have. We've been trying to make our board more diverse. We're putting the word out. It's not a very diverse community that we live in, or area that we're in the South Shore, but we've tried to reach out to different organizations to ask, how can we help you? How can we work with you? Just to show some support, in case, just to let them know that we are here in case somebody in your organization or group needs us. But again, like I said, it's something that we discuss every board meeting of how we can make our board a little more diverse.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. And Geordie.
For us, the initial start was making the bathrooms of our events gender neutral, making sure that, people are supported. Like, sometimes it's like, oh, they have to ask permission to use the washroom. Like, no, use the washroom. And I think what's best is to just, in terms of leadership, is to just really just be a little extra accommodating from the very beginning until they're able to make way themselves. But also what's important during our events is that we're very intolerant to ignorance, to not ignorance, but arrogance towards those who are gender sexually diverse in our community. And so if we're having an event and it's someone who's just being belligerent, I've kicked people out myself, told them come back when you have a better attitude. And so, I'm not sorry about that, because I want to be able to ensure that everyone is safe, secure, loved, and that they're able to celebrate Pride and to express themselves in the best of their ability, and to not feel like they have to be on edge. That's the worst feeling ever. And I think, especially in this climate that we're living in, it's I can attest to that for the QT BIPOC group, where it's a life of living, like looking behind your shoulder. And so I just want to be sure that the people in my community are represented, that they're loved, and that, even if I have to be the scary mama bear of the group, then I'll do it, because it's worth it for all of them. And another thing too is that we're really lucky to have such a great community to support our Mi'kmaq people in terms of relation. We're not the richest Mi'kmaq community in terms of like material money, wealth, but I feel like the way that our families have such a long line of working together, and through these relations over the years, we're able to really have that respect, that foundation of respect, of mutual respect and love towards one another, to work together to see, there's these issues that are being laid within our communities. How can we accommodate them? So like even the health center have reached out to us to see how they can support our to us LGBTQ plus community in Eskasoni, and even addiction services. The schools are working with the schools, the high school GSAs, and there's even a elementary, middle school GSA. So I think that's amazing. That, you know, if anyone comes to us within our community that needs help or support, that we're there to guide them, we're there to support them, and we're there to ensure that whatever space that we're taking it for them as well, that they can share that space with us.
Perfect. Thank you, Geordie. And as we begin to close this afternoon, I want to be forward-looking and look at what's next in our specific communities. Where do folks either think that their Pride movement will be going in the next several years, or what do they dream will happen in their community in terms of the Pride movement and advancing certainly the rights and liberties of queer folks in that community, and providing space for folks to gather to meet their needs. And Joy, what do you think about that?
So one thing we've been focused on is it's escaping me, conversion therapy, and having that ban. Now there was some legislation passed, but not to our satisfaction. So that's been something that we're working on kind of behind the scenes. But as our community, I'd like to see us be able to do some more small group regular meetups in the community, because I think that's where we need to be, right? We need to be where the people are and have a safe place for them to come. So that's where we are. Our group focuses very much on the fact that people in our demographic are usually economically depressed a bit, and we want to help remove the barriers of transportation and finance to different events. And that's been a challenge. Transportation is a challenge all across this province, especially in rural areas. But we're chipping away. That's all we can do. one little chip at a time.
That's right. One step at a time. And so, Sarah, where do you see things going in your area?
We cover quite a big area. So we're not just Lunenburg. We're Lunenburg, Wahome Bay, Chester, Bridgewater, everywhere in between. So I think that the upcoming year, we want to really focus on how to incorporate activities with grown-ups, with adults, and make better connections with the elder community and just adults in general. Like I said, we've been focused a lot in the schools. We've become very, we're out there, they know we're here, and we've been in every school and we've been very successful. But now it's time to focus more on the older generation. I'll still be in the schools, but we need to find some grown-ups to hang out with.
That's always wonderful. Geordie, where do you see things going?
A lot of the way we do things is mostly based on governance, and we really focus on self-determination and to build relations with other service providers, but really to show us how can we blend, using the 2I Scene approach, how can we blend the formality of the non-Indigenous group of what they teach, but also to incorporate our culture and our language into that, so that we can train people within our communities to be these gender and sexuality support workers and leaders, to ensure that it's for them, by them. And that's really a focus in terms of how can we take part in terms of reconciliation within our own communities. How can we build towards a new beginning for us all to ensure that, you know, we're no longer have that colonial mindset where you're no longer being oppressed by a system, but also self-oppressing ourselves. And so that's what our main focus is. But in terms of just, you know, logistical ways on how do we get there, I think it's just, you know, building relations, understanding and, you know, documenting and researching our own culture, you know, and the best way to do that is go visit an elder. And so, and also to do the groundwork and, you know, to blend all that together is important to ensure that the work that we do will sustain and will propel ourselves forward to a whole new direction that we weren't even going in the first place. So I think it's a lot of decolonization that we're doing, and I'm very proud to be part of that, and that's what's important.
That's so wonderful. And I think to share on behalf of Halifax Pride, certainly our goal has been and continues to be in terms of doing more for underrepresented groups and doing more in terms of accessibility. For us, it became no longer about just rapid growth and making a bigger festival, but instead making sure it responded to the needs of community and is the most community focused large pride. And that means doing all of the things necessary, all of the outreach necessary to engage diverse communities and to ensure we're meeting all of the accessibility needs for everyone in our community. And that's difficult work that will take a long time, unfortunately, but I think we are on a path and are committed to doing that and making those necessary changes as we move forward year over year in order to do that and learn. And I think a commitment to continue to learn each year and from our mistakes and do better year on year. So that's kind of where I see things going and what I hope the Halifax Pride Festival will go. And with that, I'm going to close things out and thank our wonderful panelists here today. So thank you to Geordie and Sarah and Joy. First of all, thank you for joining us, but thank you for all of the tremendous work that you are doing in your communities. Please know that we are always here to support you, to lend a hand or an ear, that we are certainly all in this together as a queer community across Nova Scotia. And we're there to share and collaborate and do all of those things. I'd also like to thank everyone who joined in to watch us for this noon hour panel series as well. I'd like to thank our wonderful ASL interpreters who have been here for the past hour, and our wonderful team that's been here for all of the noon hour panel series here at our Pride studio. They have been just fabulous. So grateful for all of their hard work to make all of this a reality. So thank you all so much. Happy Pride.
Thank you. Happy Pride.